I would like to start with Tariq Saab. And yeah, yeah. And Tariq Saab, we were talking about a lot of things in the speakers lounge, and you wanted to talk about what's the philosophy of architecture and sustainability. How about you talk about that a little bit?
Is there anyone here who doesn't speak Urdu? Okay. You should know it. میں دونوں زبانوں میں بولوں گا جو نکلتا جس طریقے سے نکلتا ہے وہ نکلے گا. میں آرکیٹیکٹ ہوں. میری پریکٹس کی شروعات ہی ایک لفظ ہے گرین آرکیٹیکچر. گرین سے ہی شروع ہوا ہے. اب گرین کے کا لفظ جو ہے بہت طریقوں سے استعمال ہو رہا ہے. گرین واشنگ بھی ہے, گریننگ بھی ہے. گرین کی جو اصلیت ہے وہ یہ ہے, صرف بوتل میں نہیں, صرف الفاظ میں نہیں, مگر رویے میں. جس طریقے سے ہم اپنے پیروں کے قدم اس زمین پہ رکھتے ہیں اس میں. تو ہمارے آرکیٹیکچر میں بھی یہی بہت ضروری ہے کہ نرم قدم سے رکھا جائے. یہ ہدایت بھی ہوئی ہوئی ہے, قرآن میں بھی ہوئی ہوئی ہے, سب مذہبوں میں بھی ہوئی ہوئی ہے, انسانیت میں ہے. تو جب میں آرکیٹیکچر پریکٹس کرتا تھا اور کر رہا ہوں تو میری کوشش یہ ہوتی ہے کہ تھوڑی سی آواز اپنی نرم رکھے, قدم بھی ہلکے رکھے, مگر کمر کے پیچھے ڈنڈا بہت پختہ, سخت و بڑا رکھے. بیکاز جو کام کرنا ہے وہ آسان نہیں ہے, اور جو آنے والے وقت آ رہے ہیں جنریٹیو اے آئی کے اور پیرامیٹرک آرکیٹیکچر کے, وہ آسان زندگی سامنے نہیں ہے. تو میں کرنا یہ چاہتا ہوں کہ تھوڑا سا اس موضوع پہ پڑھنا چاہتا ہوں. میرے اپنے الفاظ ہیں, یہ میری اپنی کتاب ہے جو ابھی چھپی نہیں ہے, چھپنے والی ہے, چھپ رہی ہے, لانچ نہیں ہوئی. اس پہ آواز آ رہی ہے آپ کو میری؟ ٹھیک ہے جی. میں تھوڑا سا اپنا چہرہ اس مشین سے تھوڑا دور رکھوں, اور یہ آنے والی زندگی میں, آنے والے وقت میں میری پوری کوشش ہوگی کہ مشین ساتھ میں ہو مگر تھوڑے سے فاصلے پہ ہی رکھوں. تھینک یو بائی دا وے. ان میں اس کمرے میں کئی ساتھی ایسے بیٹھے ہوئے ہیں جو میرے ساتھ ہمیں جنگلات میں بھی پھرتے آئے ہیں. دبیر نے آپ کو یہ نہیں بتایا کہ میں آرکیٹیکٹ ہونے کے علاوہ میں ماحولیات پہ بہت کام کرتا ہوں, خاص طور پہ مینگرووز پہ. ان سے قربت ہو گئی ہے, ان سے لگن ہو گئی ہے, ان کے بغیر رہنا مشکل ہو گیا ہے. دوست ہو گئے ہیں میرے, اور دوست بچھڑ جاتے ہیں. جن چیزوں سے آپ کی گفتگو ہوتی ہے, اور یہ صرف انسانوں سے گفتگو نہیں ہوتی, ساری کریشن سے گفتگو ہو سکتی ہے. پتھر تک بولتے ہیں. اور ہمارے کام میں بھی جو رینوویشن کے اور جو ہسٹوریکل کام کرتے ہیں ان کو پتہ ہے کہ یہ پتھر بھی آپ سے گفتگو کرتے ہیں, وہ اپنی داستانیں بتاتے ہیں. میں اشعار لکھتا ہوں, اور میرا فوکس آرٹ پہ ہے, آرکیٹیکچر پہ ہے, لکھنے پہ ہے. یہ سب ایک ہی چیز کی علامتیں ہیں یہ, اور وہ ہے شکر کرنا اور اپریشیٹ کرنا کہ ہمیں یہ کیا جگہ پہ رکھا ہے. یہ دنیا جو ہے ہماری, یہ جنت ہے, اور اس کو ہم لوگ ضائع کر رہے ہیں. تو سسٹینیبلٹی بہت اہمیت رکھتا ہے, آرکیٹیکچر بھی بہت اہمیت رکھتا ہے. آرکیٹیکچر کو جلد سے جلد بنانا بھی بہت اہمیت رکھتا ہے, بیکاز اس کے بغیر آنے والے وقتوں میں ہمیں جو جلدی نہیں کرے گا اس کو ملے گا نہیں. تو یہ مشین بھی اہمیت رکھتی ہے. اب کیا کریں, اس کے بغیر پیچھے والے میری بات نہیں سنیں گے, اور اس کو بند کر دیا تو میڈیا والے کہیں گے آپ کی آواز ریکارڈ نہیں ہو رہی, اور پھر میری آواز دوسروں تک پہنچائی نہیں جا سکتی. تو یہ بہت اہم ہوتا ہے. یہ ملی ہوئی زندگی جو ہوتی ہے بہت ضروری ہوتی ہے. یہ میری کتاب ہے, اس کا عنوان ہے, ٹائٹل ہے سولوکویز ان ورس. یہ مینوسکرپٹ ہے, رف مینوسکرپٹ ہے, اور اپنے خیالات کا اظہار ہے. So I'd like to first, I'll switch to English now, because I've written this in English. Some of it is in Urdu, but most of it is in English. I'd like to express some of the words, and perhaps it's appropriate to start off this way. So this particular thing is about architecture. So architecture, architecture is a celebration of life, of human success. Architecture is about the joy of existence. Architecture is about art, usable art. Architecture is built by man. Architecture is used by man. Architecture often ignores man. And this is not just mahavra nahi hai, this is a truism. So I write, our creations about the resilience of the human spirit, of the progress of humanity, the evolution of shining new worlds. Our commissions are to build icons of note, symbols of strength, markers of place and time, spaces of retreat. We long for the good in life and search for beauty and harmony. We recreate nature, forge materials, and mold existences. We desire the well-ordered city. And we talk the sustainable walk. We talk the sustainable walk. Our icons are created by the dreams of minds and built and run by the labor of backs and hands. Our structures are born in the realm of thoughts, but live the existence of actuality. Our symbols lie in the housing of brick, block, and mortar, supported by structure, clad with skins of materials and forged and finished. Our spaces house our existence and focus on framed views, on perspectives worth seeing and realities worth remembering, on perspectives worth seeing. These are constructs, on perspectives worth seeing and realities worth remembering. Architecture begins with the fluid, esoteric thoughts of creation. The grid. The grid is the rigid and tangible tool of order. The master of the grid is the creator of order or disorder. The question I ask is, who is the master of the grid? Just a little bit more. As a human architect, I'm humbled by some of the structures built by supposedly non-sentient or earlier stage intelligences. As an example, some ant colonies in East Africa built tall mud towers using sustainable, recyclable, regurgitated mud. These are taller than any buildings we architects have built. Scale in perspective is needed. The size of the ant hill, the size of the ant to the ant hill, the size of the human to our tallest building. We and our structures are smaller than the structures that the ant builds. And they build it with regurgitated, recyclable, green, sustainable material. And they've been doing it way before humans became humans. There is, however, a special evolutionary accident that we humans have been gifted with. It is the opposing digit, the thumb, the ability to grip and continuously make objects that our imaginings visualize as special. It has resulted in civilizations that have the potential to develop or destroy themselves, and we are witnessing that. We are witnessing that so sadly that this is happening and has been happening. This takes root within the written word. The ability to write and record complexities from which others can build from can create brave new worlds. There is a caveat though, and it is that the language or the code in which knowledge is written in or stored in is not forgotten or discarded. And this is where my concern with AI starts. And this is the reason why I value the meanings within the written word, not the written word, but the meanings within the written word, the essences. And that is why the essence in the designs that we produce as architects and as creatives and writers, authors, painters is so very, very important. So I value the meanings within the written word highly. But what happens when the translation, transcription, and the transition of thought to communication is subcontracted to automations, to machines? Is there some existential value lost when intuitive abstractions are communicated to, then filled in by, built by an algorithm? What is its value? Even if IT, even if it, and the pun is intended, resides in an increasingly vast database. AI is a reality and a new frontier. It is a frontier. And we have to learn, not necessarily embrace it. The future of the quality of human sentient thought is up for grabs. And it is. Who will belong to the subset residing in a cell of this grid? And who will be the master of the grid? In my opinion, at this point, we as a creature stand out for our ability to feel, observe, absorb, speak, and write. To be able to record, write the intuited, intangible idea for posterity is indeed the most valuable achievement of us as humans. Hence I aspire to write. And I am so afraid, I am terrified of the times to come. Thank you. So this is just one sentence. This is just a snippet of what I have been feeling, writing. The first section was written about 15 years ago, and this last section was written, the AI section was written last year. So these are issues that continue, and I would like you all to read Isaac Asimov's The Last Question. Please note that, written in the 50s and the early 60s. And it is pertinent and relates to our dilemma today.
No, thank you so much, Tariq Saab. I think you talked about the ant and the nature-based solutions, and really, I would really want Sarah, if you can just talk about like how your background is. Also introduce a little bit to the audience a little bit more, and also talk about how the nature-based solutions and regenerative part can actually be aligned with what's to come tomorrow.
So, Assalamualaikum. I'm Sara. I run 2 businesses with my partners. I'm a principal architect at Najmi Bilgrami, and I'm an architect at Yoga. And we've been doing this journey. I think we are what I would like to call the sandwich generation, because this word sustainability is thrown around. You will interpret it the way you want to. We will interpret it. The generations before us will interpret it in a broader spectrum. What I really do want to talk about is 2 folds. The first fold is that sustainability today, as we see it, changes when we talk about tomorrow's future, because we are given a planet. Whatever we build, whatever we construct, there's a thought, there's an endeavor to protect our planet. Today, it's not just because I want to, or I'm a dreamer, or I'm a collaborator, or I prefer nature. It's an absolute necessity. Okay, we cannot regress from the fact that we are today because of what was handed over to us. We cannot cry about it. We cannot, we can only take a course of action. We are all learning the curve of sustainability today, which is a smart building. There's a lot of pressure on buildings being smart, okay? And I feel like there's a lot of pressure. The building can now feel your temperature, change the temperature. It can have passive cooling systems. It can have a hybrid modulation. It can have all of that coming in. And you can protect a certain amount of area with that building. I'm going to talk about the next step. The next step is then, in my opinion, generative architecture. The architecture that gives back. There is this ecological disbalance and disparity, and we are all talking about going back to the vernacular. Like, Tariq Saab brought up a little bit about primitive designs that stand the test of time. So, in my very small thought process, the igloo, I mean, it's fantastic. You know, it preserves whatever it's meant to preserve. It keeps you warm. It's found right there. It creates passive cooling, heating systems without any AI. It's been doing that before any of us were born. You know, the pyramids keep bodies mummified. I don't care what solution you put on them. It is that genius architecture that did it, right? But today when you go into these high rises, and I'm speaking from my own experience, I'm sure you will share it, there are times when you feel or you can almost smell or taste the mold in these beautiful buildings, you know. You can feel ill. Khidki nahi khulti, darwaze nahi khulti. You know, so for me, that is a very, very important part of who I am and what I build, or what I aspire to build. The carbon footprint is a question, age-old, coming back and forth. How can we reduce our carbon footprint? These are very technical, broad terms, which I don't want to focus. I just want to focus on the essence of today when we build a building which is specific to its environment. How is that building creating economies of scale within it? How is it giving jobs right next to it? How is it using materiality? How is it using that in its infrastructure? Today, when you and I say this is an amazing split system, but we have sophisticated systems and this is outdated now. How is this building adapting for the next 25 years without providing the climate as collateral damage? So, you know, when we are designing, why aren't we taking the climate? Why aren't we taking, Mother Earth is very used to this. She can take this bashing, right? She can survive, she can regroup, but will we survive to remain there? Is the question we need to ask ourselves. Will we survive to enjoy Mother Earth? We are responsible for what we put out. So buildings which every part of the building, the roof becomes a football field. Where is all of that gone, you know? We're putting high rises up, buildings. I mean, we're all from Pakistan. Sabse bada antiseptic jo hai neem ka darakht hai. Am I right? We all were given the neem sometime when we felt sick. But we are going into ecological developments of removing certain things from the air so we can breathe. And yet none of us are breathing better. The air quality is consistently getting bad. So why aren't our building surfaces, including, you know, things like algae, things that are there, available to us? We can use the same tools of modernization. They're all tools. पुराने ज़माने में से हाथ से sketch करते थे from my father's time, फिर हमें computer मिला, आज AI मिल रहा है. But you are generating, you are using, you are the responsible user behind these tools. So whether it's beautiful words that generate a design in AI today, or yesterday it was a color pencil, let's use that with an intelligent, just a little bit of a thought behind the response. You know, you're responsible for so much more, for creating those economies, for creating those jobs, for creating communities. In these buildings that they're beautiful buildings, there's a need for them, there's less land. Where's the community spirit? Where do kids get out and throw a ball? Why is there no break in these buildings? You know, where is that space where I just want to go and sit under a tree and feel good for 5 minutes? Why do we need these therapies and these different modalities today? Because we are running in cycles, you know. But architecture was meant to protect, and protect not just your body, but your spirit. A space, I mean, I was about to share a funny story. When I got hired for my first job in America, my boss was wonderful, right? And I worked directly, he came to our college and he recruited us. And I lied, like most of us lie on the first thing, that I am proficient in AutoCAD. I was not even efficient, I was probably deficient, you know. You knew my boss, Tom Baird. He was, well, and I said to him, you know, I lied. And he said, I know you lied. And his words to me still stand true. He said, it's okay if you lied. Now go sit behind that Asian boy, you will learn AutoCAD. And that's what I did. For everything, I said, Steve. And he said, go take a hammer, break a building. You will understand the tectonics. But if you didn't have the essence of architecture in you, you wouldn't be here. And I think that rings true. And he said, every few years, I have to teach myself what's new. Today we've got AI, tomorrow AI will be obsolete. We'll be in the same question asking, but we are the driving force behind it. You know, so there are very few questions. I mean, I personally, I love going to see these buildings, but I do feel a sense of overwhelming. And I feel like we are responsible for bringing those breaks, for bringing back a little bit of the primitive. It's really not that bad if we bring it back into our today's norm. So that's where I would stand with.
No, that's a very wonderful thought. I also really enjoyed the fact that you talked about how coming into a new space, there were some skills that you wanted to learn, and through resilience and making sure that you saw it through, you came on the other side. I think architecture in Pakistan specifically, I think resilience is something that we have been really pushing it to the other side, like a bit too much. I would now like to add that Yawar Saab, you have done a lot of work on different scales. So, from a zoomed out view, how do you look at the topic that we're discussing today, the architecture, resilience, sustainability? How does smart and AI come into the whole play?
No, thank you, Daveed. Thank you, everyone, for sparing your time and listening to us. Both my colleagues have delivered their thoughts and messages in a wonderful way. When I was invited to this forum, पहले तो मुझे समझ नहीं आई SOT का क्या मतलब है. फिर मुझे किसी ने बताया कि it means School of Tomorrow. And I thought that is such a wonderful thought. You know, what is tomorrow going to bring for us? And I see this young man, Zair Bilgrami, sitting in front of me, and he's very attentive. There are also a lot of young people amongst us who are also, you know, wanting to hear us. And I told myself, where was I 50 years back? I was somewhere where Zair is today. And what was Karachi to me? What was Pakistan to me? And unfortunately, and nostalgia apart, I'm really not one of those who looks back at time and says, oh, everything was wonderful. But I really believe that there was a much better Karachi. The physical environment of Karachi was much better than what it is today. But that doesn't mean that we lose hope, we lose our optimism. The worry, as both Tariq and Sarah brought up, is that the blue dot is the blue dot. And how do we save it? We as architects think of ourselves as stewards of environment. And we would like to, you know, do whatever we can to take it further. It is really a lovely profession. It has to do with the physical environment and a lot more beyond that. But, you know, when you start thinking of the year 2074, when this young man will be sitting here and talking to a lot of people, what will the world be then? It's interesting, and if I start looking at the data and the statistics, we're looking at the world where the temperatures would have risen by about 2 degrees centigrade. Now that's fairly massive from where we were to where we will be. We would be seeing a Pakistan which is today 230 million to have peaked almost to about 420 million. So we would have doubled ourselves by then. You know, beacon houses would have become more beacon houses, educators, or wo jo ek aapka midstream hai, maybe you would have 10 streams catering to the needs of that particular society. But the questions, and there's so much, you know, today hamari jo education hai, overall index, literacy rates, we're at 60% only, where the world is at 83%. But the hope is we would have gone to about 90% hopefully by that time and age. So the, let's say 50 years from now, School of Tomorrow. And उसी को देखते हुए हमारी जो इकोनॉमिक रैंकिंग और सारा कुछ अगर हम देखें तो we are told कि we would be one of the 20th, you know, biggest economies of the world. Now that's fairly strong. Now in सारी forces को अगर हम देखें کہ ایک کلچر, ایک سوسائٹی, ایک پیپل اس میں کیسے لیو کر سکتے ہیں. یہ سارے سوالات ہم ایز آرکیٹیکٹس we get bombarded by them and we have to confront them on a daily basis. اس کے لیے certainly جو آپ کہہ رہے تھے, we have our tools, we have our understandings, but ایک architect can only go so far. میں ادھر آنے سے پہلے اگین سوچ رہا تھا کہ ہمارا کام کتنے انسانوں کو ابھی تک پہنچ چکا ہے, کہاں تک ہم لوگوں کو افیکٹ کر چکے ہیں. تو میرے خیال میں نے جو گنا وہ کچھ 10 سے 12 ہزار لوگ ہماری بلڈنگز میں اس وقت رہائش کر رہے ہیں. یہ ہر قسم کے, جس طرح سے دبیر کہہ رہے تھے, ہماری پریکٹس ایسی ہے کہ وہ ہم پورا اسپیکٹرم کیری کرتے ہیں اپنی پریکٹس میں, کہ ہر قسم کے آدمی کو, فیملی کو ہم کوشش کرتے ہیں کہ ایک چھت دے سکیں. بٹ کہنے کا مقصد یہ ہے کہ ٹوڈے آئی ایم اے 63-year-old man who's been in practice now for give or take 35-36 years, اور میں صرف 10,000 لوگوں تک میری رسائی ہو چکی ہے. طارق اپنے میسیجز اور اپنے طریقہ کار سے I think he is able to, at least from a thought process perspective, reach a lot many more, and hopefully I pray to God that the younger generation, بیچارہ زہر میرے سامنے اس لیے مجھے اسی کی ایگزامپل آ رہا ہے, بٹ آپ لوگ پیچھے بھی بہت ہیں ینگسٹرز, تو آپ سب تک یہ ایک تھاٹ پروسیس پہنچانا, کیونکہ جس طرح سے سارا کہہ رہی تھیں, طارق بھی کہہ رہے تھے, رامے سب دیکھتے ہیں کیا کہیں گے, بٹ مجھے تو لگتا ہے کہ یہ اتنی انٹینس اسٹرگل ہے, where we have to do a lot of catch up to meet up with the issues which are taking our blue earth, our dot, away from us. And when I was born into this world, one did not think of the world as being fragile. One thought of fragilities primarily in other areas. We as humans were meant to be fragile, but we've brought the world to a state where it is now becoming that. And I think it is the next 50 years where let's say it's 2 generations, 1 generation, where the true struggle will be. We are also kind of a transient generation. We are feeling it, but we are not sending this message across or creating the frameworks by which this world can be saved in the way which we would like it to. ہم سب جہاں سے آج آئے ہیں کراچی میں, we see that urban degeneration all around us, and it is growing. One of the biggest problems today is that ہمارے یہاں کوئی طریقہ نہیں لینڈ مینجمنٹ کا, کوئی طریقہ نہیں اربن پلاننگ کا. ہم جس شعبے سے تعلق رکھتے ہیں وہ اگر ہم اس کو تھوڑا اس مائکروکازم سے بڑھائیں تو وہ ہم اربن ڈیزائن اور پلاننگ کے ریلم میں چلے جاتے ہیں, جس کے اوپر انفارچونیٹلی ہمارا کوئی انٹینس کام نہیں ہو رہا. اور ون آف دا بگیسٹ پرابلمز از, تبیر مجھے معلوم نہیں کتنا ٹائم ہے, کہ ہم لوگ سب ایک اپنے سیلولر ایریاز میں کام کرتے ہیں, ہم لوگ مل کے کام نہیں کرتے. کوشش ہوتی ہے, مثلاً آپ سب یو بینگ ویری کائنڈ, آپ سب یو کم فرام ویریس ایریاز of work and society, and you are here listening to us and our thoughts. But people who matter, people who are decision makers, hopefully there will be future decision makers here, people who are in the realm of politics, people who are in the realm of decision making, اگر وہ اس کو سٹر نہیں کریں گے اور وہ اس لیول پہ نہیں آئیں گے جرنلسٹ یو نو ہو کین ٹیک وائسز لائک جو دو ابھی ہم نے وائسز سنی اکراس دا ویریس اسپیکٹرمس ٹو پیپل ہو میٹر اینڈ وہاں سے پھر وہ کچھ کارروائی شروع کریں. ورنہ ہم تو کہہ کے اس دنیا سے فنا تو نہیں بٹ طریقے سے نکل جائیں گے, بٹ آگے کیا ہوگا. سو یہ سوالات ہیں. I really did not answer your question because مجھے ڈر لگتا ہے اے آئی سے کافی حد تک. اب مثلاً وہ خاتون تھیں, وہ پتہ نہیں کہاں سے آئی تھیں, اسکینڈینیویا سے یا جہاں سے بھی آئی تھیں, بٹ ان کے برعکس اگر آپ میں سے کوئی ایک انسان یہاں کھڑے ہو کے وہی باتیں کرتا کہ ہمیں بلاتا, دبیر کو محبت سے بلاتا, تو اس میں ایک انسانیت جو ہے وہ جب لوز ہو جائے تو it is a tool, but the worry right now is like anything new which comes about, that how is that tool going to be applied. And I think Tariq mentioned it, Sarah mentioned it, but my worry is also that مجھے تو کسی نے کہا کہ صاحب آپ تو اب 5-10 سال میں فارغ ہو جائیں گے, آپ بیٹھ جائیے گا اور آپ کی ضرورت نہیں. بٹ میرا خیال ہے ایسی بات نہیں. ہر ایک جگہ ہم انسان جو ہیں, اگر ہم اپنا ایک سوچ اور اپنا طریقہ عمل کھو بیٹھیں گے تو پھر the spaces we will be in will lose any meaning, because architecture جو ہے it's a wonderful profession. طارق نے بڑی خوبصورتی سے اپنی brilliant poetry کے ساتھ آپ کو بتایا کہ یہ ہمارا پروفیشن جو ہے یہ انسانوں کو جب وہ ایک اسپیسز میں جاتے ہیں, it has the ability to transform you, it has the ability to change you, it has the ability to make you feel better. اگر مثلاً آپ بیمار ہیں اور آپ ایک ایسے اسپیس میں چلے جائیں جہاں ایک طریقے سے یو نو آرکیٹیکٹ نے اس اسپیس کو کمپوز کیا ہے, پٹ ٹوگیدر کیا ہے, believe me, this is scientifically proven, you will get better much more quicker. So it is a wonderful profession, but سوال یہ ہے کہ اس کا میرج اس طرح کی ٹولز کے ساتھ کیسے ہوگا. کیا یہ ٹولز ٹیک اوور کر لیں گے, بیکاز کنوینئنس ہے نا. اب وہ جو خاتون تھیں وہ بالکل طریقے سے آئیں, بولیں اور وہ پھر چپ ہو گئیں. اب میں I'm continuing دبیر کا ٹائم جو ہے وہ گزرا جا رہا ہے, وہ کہہ رہا ہے کہ یار اب بس بھی کرو, آگے نکلیں. تو اب میں بس کرتا ہوں, آگے چلتے ہیں اور آپ بات کریں.
So much, Yawar Saab. I think the thing that you mentioned about the human part of it, I was recently reading this interview of one of the founders of LinkedIn, and uski jo beti hai uske paas aayi, usne bola कि okay, I have to choose my career, and I think this is very relevant because we have a lot of young audience here, कि for tomorrow what career choice should I choose. So one of the things that he said was that the human hand and the human feeling will never be replaced. So if you go to a career where a human part of something cannot be replaced, I think that was something that I really felt was heartfelt, at least to me. And I think that also teaches us a lot about, like Sarah, you mentioned, that how can AI be a tool? And we use it as a tool, just like AutoCAD. I mean, I'm sure Yawar Saab, آپ اور طارق صاحب, آپ کے ٹائم پہ جب AutoCAD کا ٹرانزیشن ہوا تھا, there were similar fears that, you know, the draftman will be redundant. But every architecture firm has draftmen. So it's how we use the tools is probably how especially to solve the problems. And coming back to the climate part of sustainability, I was just discussing with Ramesh Bhai about the fact that we only have 0.6% of carbon emissions of the whole planet. And then still we are one of the poorest countries, and also we have the burden of being the 10 most affected countries in the world. So how do you see AI, and how do you see how the community can actually use these tools to help us with some solutions?
Right. Thank you, Dabir. Ram is here. I'm also, like the other distinguished people on this panel, an architect. Your question, I mean, first let's look at a little bit of the background that, we all, whenever we look at buildings, I mean, this is not architects per se, but the general public. I mean, we look at the UAE, we look at Dubai, we think that, oh wow, this is the greatest gift to architecture that the world has seen. But when we look at in terms of resources that it's using, if every country was like the UAE, we would need 6 Earths. 6 दुनिया चाहिए होंगी हमें उस तरह रहने के लिए. तो वो कोई बहुत बेहतरीन एग्जाम्पल नहीं है. USA similarly, again, everyone looks up to it as the leader of, democracy and, the world superpower. But the way they are using resources, you would need 5 Earths just to sustain. China, which has come new to all of this but is moving so rapidly, they are at about 2.5. So countries like Pakistan and even India right now, we are below 1. So the way we are and the way we live and the way we've been traditionally there, we are not hogging all the world's resources as the rest of the world is. Even over 1 billion in India, 250 million in Pakistan, and if you look at the subcontinent as a whole, close to 2 billion. And so it's the numbers which are not the problem. The earth, God's given earth, is able to feed us all without any problem. But it is how we use those resources which become critical. And then it comes down to mindset. I mean, I need a room to live in, so I have a room. And the simplest thing is what's available to us actively. Okay, I just have to turn on this air conditioner and I don't have to worry about the fact that this room has any natural ventilation. Is there a window or not? Doesn't matter, I've turned on the AC. Similarly with the light, all these lights are on. No worry कि इसमें daylight आ रही है नहीं आ रही है. So the mindset has to change, or it has to be looked at कि first our environment has to be conducive. You have to make sure कि अगर हम बाहर की हवा अंदर ले रहे हैं तो क्या वो हवा इस काबिल है भी, क्योंकि आजकल तो जिस तरह हम लाहौर का देख रहे हैं कि वहाँ पे पोल्यूशन इतनी है, वो जो AQI नंबर्स होते हैं दे आर exorbitantly high. I think 200 कोई उसका नंबर होता है AQI का. If it's more than 200, you're not supposed to leave indoors. Lahore was at 600. 800? Okay, thank you. So but I'm sure all Lahoris were outside going about their business because there is nothing you can do about it. So it is appalling, where this world can quickly get to if we do not either understand the problems completely or not look at it from a short-term, bottom line sort of point of view. Okay, at least we've done that. So yes, tools like AI, technology has helped us, right? It's only now that we can actually put a number to this. So before, the most we could have said कि यार हाँ आज ज़रा धुंधला सा है, आज जो है सांस इतना अच्छा नहीं आ रहा, लेकिन we couldn't put a number to it कि how worst is it. I mean, yesterday it was in the news that we broke a 57-year record of the hottest night in Karachi. So we are in November, and it still feels like summer. So these tools are there. They can or they should be used to help us make lives better. And in no way, I'm not taking it to Terminator movie series level, in no way dictate to us and in no way take over us and use us as some sort of biofuel for their survival. So yes, they are tools, and similar technological advances have come before. Humans have taken control and driven them and made sure that they are beneficial, or at least ensure that they are beneficial to society rather than creating a further problem or a further dent because all of these, things are real. Everything, I mean, another tool that we use for all our work and all our practice, all our work is in the cloud because we make sure that it doesn't get lost, our computers don't crash, etc., XYZ. But do we know that where all that cloud storage is? It's being kept in like the Norwegian, Arctic zone where they're using, again, millions of dollars of resources just to keep those servers up and running. So there is a cost to everything. There is, of course, that convenience, but there is a price that we are paying. So yes, for a lay person, the glitter and glamour of the UAE looks impressive, but imagine if you were like that, the world would be finishing pretty quickly. So, there is food for thought there. There is something to consider.
No, I think that's wonderful. And I think one thing you mentioned about being able to measure, because you can't do any intelligent decision making without having the data. And I think because the fact that we know the AQI was up to 800, so we know how bad it is. Similarly, whenever we travel, there is this marking on every airline ticket that how much carbon emissions will be emitted. And it's kind of ironic that another COP is just around the corner, and people will be flying in with private jets, talking about how to save the world, and then making a carbon impact, which probably will be closer to the impact by a small country that will be emitted in a few days. So the irony is definitely there. I think we have a couple of more, 5 minutes more. So if you could just each have a couple of statements on how can actual building material be used. And you talked about, Tariq Saab, nature-based solutions and how the ant can teach us. And I know in the religious scripture, the ant has been really really honored of sort and talked about and how intelligent it is. So if all of you guys could actually have like a couple of minutes to talk about this. Tariq Saab, please.
देखिए religious scriptures से थोड़ा हट के एक साधु सूफी साहब थे कबीर दास, उनके कलाम में बहुत आला जुमला है, वो है बर्तन सबके न्यारे न्यारे पानी सब में। ये एक असलियत होती थी, अब नहीं। हमारा पानी उसके पानी से अलग है। ये वाला पानी सस्टेनेबल और ग्रीन है बिकॉज ग्लास की बोतल में है, प्लास्टिक की बोतल में नहीं है। मैं अपना पानी इसमें पीता हूँ, मगर सब पानी एक है बिकॉज फिल्टर से आता है, बोतल से खरीदा जाता है, हम पीते हैं, मगर हमारे ड्राइवर दूसरा पानी पीते। फिर आप कहेंगे कि अरे भाई हवा को देखो, सब एक ही लेते हैं। हाँ, लाहौर में सब एक लेते हैं, कराची में हम लोग सब एक लेते हैं सब निकलते हैं, सांस लेते हैं उससे। मगर डाइसन एक कंपनी है, नाम सुना हुआ होगा, ठीक है जी, फ़िल्टर से बहुत बड़ा काम है। उनके पर्सनलाइज्ड एयर फ़िल्टर्स आप देख लें, वो 700 पाउंड का है। शायद मैं ख़रीद लूँ, मगर मैं भी थोड़ा सा हिचक जाता हूँ, थोड़ी कोफ्त होती है। 700 पाउंड एक फ़िल्टर पहनने पे है कि हेडफोन्स में मौसीकी भी सुन लूँगा, मगर साफ़ हवा भी आएगी बिकॉज उसका फ़िल्टर इधर से लेकर इधर तक जाता है। एक inherently wrong, this way we are going. The ultimate thing, I don't want to talk about materials because that's not the matter of concern. The concern is the internet and the phones have spread out and everyone's using TikTok. Okay, fine, I don't, but people do. AI is going to be there and is going to come, and it needs to be used just the way we learned how to use AutoCAD, how to make my models. I still render my own, and the only reason, because when I was much younger than Dabir at 27, I decided कि मैंने किसी का मोहताज नहीं होना अपने प्रोफेशन में, तो मैं सब अपने स्पेशलिटीज़ अपनी ट्रेड की सीखूँगा। सीख ली और एआई भी सीखूँगा, मगर जो डिवीज़न आएगी एआई इस्तेमाल करने वालों में और नहीं करने वालों में, वो जो ग्रिड आएगा, हम लोग वैसे भी हमारी ज़िंदगियाँ, हमारी असलियत जो है वो पूरे कायनात की असलियत में एक छोटे से नुक्ते के ऊपर है, जिस नुक्ते के ऊपर ज़र्रे के ज़र्रे पे हम रहते हैं, ठीक है। वो डिविजन्स इतने भारी हो जाएंगे कि हमारी consequence of existence जो होगी is going to disappear even more, and we have to be very careful because the future of humanity is at stake, and you young people have to embrace this, but you have to know how to use it, as Yavar Saab was talking about.
No, thank you so much. I'll just before I are there any questions from the yes, oh wonderful. So if like Yavar Saab, would you like to take why are there so many discrepancies in our infrastructures that are non-eco-friendly? I'm trying to also understand the question.
Can I take the second one?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
The first one is answered simply, it's all about money.
Yeah, the first one is easy.
It's a non-question.
Yeah.
It's all about money.
Yeah. Okay. So the second question is actually very interesting. Can AI eventually replace architecture in the creative design process? And I think this is very interesting because I know most of the panelists over here are related and very active with the academia. So if Yavar Saab, you could actually just start with this.
Sure, I'll start with this, but I don't think I'll end with it because all of us have very strong views on this. And I think whoever's posed this question, it's a very, very relevant question, not just for us in the realm of architecture, but for all of us in this room. I really believe that, no, AI cannot take over the design process, or, it can be a tool. It can, and it should be, let me put it that way. It needs to be processed in that manner because, at the end of the day, the human brain is accumulation of so many emotions, so much history, our senses, which all come together, and we as architects, when we create our forms and when we create that environment, जिस तरह से रामेश कह रहे थे कि कैसे हवा आएगी, कैसे आप लाइट को एक्सपीरियंस करेंगे, सारा कुछ, तो वो सारी चीज़ों को देखते हुए आई रियली फील के it cannot replace or in fact I would say it should not replace us, the humans. जिस तरह से मैंने कहा, वो जो खातून आई थी, मैं उनसे थोड़ा सा डर गया था और मैं नहीं चाहूँगा कि फ्यूचर में वो ऐसी खातून आके लोगों को इंट्रोड्यूस करें, बल्कि बीकन हाउस को और मैं SOT को कहूँगा कि इंसान is a better way than that AI generated lady. So that's it.
No, wonderful. I think we have time for one more question before I just summarize the whole conversation. So Sarah, how do you feel about how can resilient design support climate change mitigation?
I think this is a really broad spectrum question, and I think it has two sides to it. Look, until the architects, the end user, which is your developer, your contractor, your private client, and the regulatory bodies which decide what happens in terms of passing the laws, when they can communicate and come to a support system for each other, the architects could be saying, "Yeah, darakh laga le, ye khol dein, isme ye system na lagaye." But at the end of the day, the product is a mutual effort, right? And when the regulatory bodies come in, like in certain countries you drive by, the setbacks have been set. So whatever you do, you will see ghas. Whatever you do, you will have that break. So I feel like once they get together, there are so many, you asked about materials, materials change every day. There's new brick design that is using actual raw fodder. There's so much that's coming at every day. But I feel like once they make a collaborative effort to put forth certain guidelines that could then be used for not today, for what the impact will be for another 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you know. So I think they have to come to a united goal.
Right. Wonderful. I'll actually put this question to Ramesh bhai. Are you using any AI tool in your office? And what's your opinion on our educational system?
It's almost seems like we planted this because the moment this popped up, I thought I would really want to share this last summer's experience where we had a few interns from architectural colleges and very basic chat GPT level free versions only, because again there is a cost attached to all of these new services coming out. So what we tried to do, we gave the same prompt to the interns and gave the same prompt to AI, and of course it's very obvious what the AI came up with was much quicker, right? It happened in seconds, and of course our interns were taking a couple of hours, but at that very basic prompt level. So it could also be our shortcoming because we are also researching and learning how to prompt AI to deliver for us. But naturally AI was coming up with fantastical representation of whatever the prompt was as something to share or to print and this and that. But even at the basic level, the ideas that were coming from the students, at least they felt like it is something which could be developed. And ultimately, so I think it's not about AI replacing human or human jobs going away to that. I think the most critical job that's coming up, so this is for all the 18, 20-year-olds who are out there right now, I think is going to be for the prompters. If you are great at getting results out of AI, if you have the right questions, the right integration, the right approach to it, and I think you would be in most demand with the way things are going right now.
No, I think we had a similar conversation just yesterday, so I think great. I'll just summarize the whole conversation for everyone. I think it was really great to hear such diverse opinions. I think one of the best things is that when you have diversity in opinions, there are many avenues that open up. Tariq Saab, thank you so much for talking about the philosophical side of things, and that poetic piece was amazing. We look forward to your book coming out soon. Sarah, again, I think your perspective was something was really enjoyed. I think the regenerative part of it, and also because your son's sitting over here, so you're more concerned about what's the world that we are going to give them. And I have a 2.5-year-old, so again, this is a conversation that keeps me up, because once the 3-degree barrier is crossed, then will not be a world that we will be able to see the same way. However, the silver lining is that we have actually won such battles before. The ozone layer, when I was in school, was a gaping hole, but now it's being repaired. And it's the same people. This happened in our lives. So that's the silver lining over here. Again, Yawar Saab, I think your perspective was, again, communal based and similar to what Ramesh bhai was saying. And I think this is something that is so important, like no architect, no single professional can solve this problem. This is a problem that has been created by us abusing the resources of the world, the planet has given us. And it's now on us to actually act responsible and not push the ball forward so that the problem becomes for the next generation to solve. So with that, thank you so much, everyone. I hope that you all enjoyed the conversation, and I am very confident that these are the questions that you guys will be asking yourselves, and hopefully one of you from the audience will come up with a better solution that probably we have come up with. Thank you so much.